Hey there, welcome to the final Rich Tangs at Square Theatre podcast of Series 12. But never fear, Series 13 is going to be here very soon. There may be a week or two off, but then we'll be back with Kathy Burke and Adam Kay. You can still buy tickets for the Leicester Square Theatre website on the 5th of February. 12th of February is sold out. 19th of February is Trevor and Simon. And someone else to be announced. And 26th of February is Mackenzie Crook and Kiri and Rachel from the All Killer No Filler podcast. There's some other fantastic dates coming up. March the 5th, Peter Bainham and, Too Gorgeous and Catherine Ryan. Brian Blessed on the 12th and Al Murray coming up. And we'll be confirming the other dates as soon as possible. But also, I'm about to go off on tour. It starts on 1st of February in Northampton, goes through pretty much everywhere in the United Kingdom. All right, not quite everywhere, until the 3rd of June in the Warwick Arts Centre. If you go to richherring.com/ofrig/tour, you can see all of the dates. Some of them are selling great, some of them are selling not so great. Chorley is nearly sold out. Norwich, I think, is sold out. Sutton Coldfield sold out. But coming up are Northampton on the 1st, still some tickets. Dorking on the 2nd of February, still some tickets. Leicester on the 9th of February, lots of tickets for that one. Cambridge selling very well on the 17th. St Albans, that's a massive venue, lots of tickets left. Banbury on the 23rd, selling badly. Cardiff on the 24th, selling very well. 28th, King's Theatre Cheddar, loads more coming up after that. But if you want a little taster of what is to come, here is me doing 45 seconds of material from the show. Yeah, for free. You get 45 seconds for free, then you have to pay for the rest. That's how it works in show business, babies. Hope you enjoy it.
We've recently bought a puppy because we're moving to the country. You have to on 50, that's the rules. And I realise that's the first pet that I've ever owned that has a realistic chance of outliving me. When I buy a bag for life now, I think, probably isn't it? I'm a very different person than I was 10 years ago. At 40, I was single. I was going out every night. I was getting drunk. I was very depressed. I was hanging around with people half my age, just having sex every night with a different person, nameless, faceless strangers. I have to say, in the end, I have to tell you, the whole thing, it did just make me very happy. It was awesome.
Welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. Please welcome a man who has just been told goodbye by one of his audience, even though he isn't even on stage yet. How did that happen? It's Richard Herring! Thank you very much. Hello, welcome to the final episode of Series 12 of Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. I was talking to my Alexa device. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool device. You can say stuff to it and it will do the things. And you can say, Alexa, give me an emergency question. And if you've downloaded the emergency questions app, it will give you an emergency question. I think I might just film that and then we can clip to it doing that. It's quite freaky. So we got one to find out. Anyway, Alexa, my best friend who is a robot voice, a bit covered in semen. She calls it... it's in the kitchen, but I still manage. It's all right if it's a robot. Those are the rules. That's the new rules. She calls it Rehearsal. So that is. This podcast pretty much will mark, when it comes out, will mark almost exactly 10 years to the day since I began podcasting. So that is, and I'm still going. And apparently, this audience considers that an achievement rather than a sad disaster. But. Hopefully we'll keep going for another 10 years. It's insane. Also, as I said in the last podcast, 10 years since I started going out with my wife, but that's not going as well as the podcast. So I've only had 2 children. We've done like 160 something of this. So
I was talking to my children. I've been watching Toy Story a lot with my daughter who loves Toy Story. So you end up watching like the same film over and over again. And it's made me... I've got some questions about Toy Story. I don't know if you can answer these. If Buzz Lightyear thinks he is a real person, why does he freeze when he is in the company of human beings? Yeah. Doesn't make sense, does it? Because, and also, you can't say, well, that's an instinctive thing that the toys do, because no, because...
He thinks they're aliens.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. He thinks that everything's aliens and he doesn't freeze with all the other things. So why does he freeze with the humans? Doesn't make sense. And Woody can choose to come alive when he wants to. Makes you think, doesn't it? And who animated the toys in the first place and decided the cut-off point of what would get animated and what wouldn't? Because, like, is a brick... Does that come alive? Does, like, just a piece of dirt come alive? So who decided that? And why are the toys all obeying the rules? Whoever decided that? It's an interesting question. Why are they keeping up the rules? What's it? Even when they're being destroyed, they'll still go, no, I'm going to carry on not moving. Fucking move, mate. He's about to blow you up with a rocket. Well, it's good questions. You know... The audience are shocked into silence. They haven't thought of that. Anyway, my guest this week, my final guest of the series, we saved the best to last. He's probably best known for his appearance on episode 14 of Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. He was also a team captain on What the Dickens. Yeah. Yeah. I could hear the screams of excitement from that. It's Dave Gorman, ladies and gentlemen. Are you Dave Gorman? Are you? But are you? Dave Gorman. Welcome. Come in. Sit down. Pull up a microphone.
I will put up a microphone.
Sit down. Make yourself at home.
Thank you, Richard.
Welcome again.
It's very nice to be here again.
What do you think of the new chairs?
I was thinking I should have held off until the next series when you're going to get some fucking new chairs. That's what I'm thinking.
We'll get you back in the future when those new chairs are old.
Of course, you, Richard, are best known as Percy the Shepherd in Servants from 2003, aren't you?
I am well known.
What was your motivation for that role, Richard?
Well, it was a Somerset. My motivation was to be
Lucy
Somerset.
Gannon creation, Joe Absalom. Yeah.
And it went out against, I think, Celebrity Big Brother or something like that. It disappeared without trace. There was, Joe Absalom was on it. I met him. I was doing the scene with him. He was a nice guy from EastEnders. Chatted with him. It looked like it was going to be a big hit. They wanted sexy people. They wanted all sexy people to be in it, and that's why I was cast as Percy the Shepherd.
How many readings of... You've got my favourite line. I think all of us, we have the same favourite line, don't we, from Servants. May your bollocks blacken and drop off, my lord.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
How many... Can you try that in different sort of readings? Did the director say, a bit more this, bit less that?
They took my first reading of it.
Okay.
I'd say it was the only time I've been for a few auditions in my life, and I think I got this audition because someone I was at school with was going out with the casting director, and they said, we're really struggling to find someone who can do a Somerset Shepherd, and they said, what about Richard Herring? And then they got me into audition it, and I auditioned, and I thought, I'm going to get this.
Yeah.
Only time that's ever happened. Yeah. So, and I was right.
May your bollocks blacken and drop off, my lord. It's a great line.
I had to do it sort of as he was passing by and just under my breath.
Yeah.
Well, there was a horse and a carriage came past.
Yeah.
And it was quite scary. And like the director said, the promising young actor Richard Herring killed in his first run. Thanks a lot, mate. Nice one. Good. You literally turned that round on me. I've been Louis Theroux. Oh, and I should say, I forgot to say, this was the one thing I was meant to say in the introduction. This has nothing to do with you, Dave.
Yeah.
On our Kickstarter, thank you for backing this. This is the reason this is being videoed. We did ask for people to sponsor the shows if they wanted to. We got 2 people who did it, one of whom withdrew the money before it got taken.
Okay, yeah.
The only person who's...
Is that when you told them who was on?
No, that was before it even finished. The only person whose money went through is called Gary J. Newman. I don't think it's the...
Not Gary Newman.
I don't think it is.
He's putting the J in on purpose to sort of point out it's not Gary Newman.
Who said, I just wanted to give the podcast some money. I don't really want to be advertise anything. But you could mention... That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
He said, but we could mention facepunch.com, which I looked up. It seems to be a load of nonsense. But, that is... Thanks for the... Thanks.
Well done, Gary J. Newman.
Gary J. Newman.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, all the way through the series I've forgotten to do that, so I'm glad I finally managed to do it.
Good for him.
Anyway, let's talk to you, Dave, about... do you remember What the Dickens?
I do remember What the Dickens.
You did quite a few What the Dickens.
I did one series of What the Dickens in 1 week in Hay-on-Wye in a tent.
Okay.
Which was... so it was sort of sold to me, it's going to be a sort of panel show, but it's for Sky Arts, and it's going to be quite literary, and we're doing it at the Hay Literary Festival. And it's Sandy Toksvig, who is... she's sainted as far as I'm concerned, and it's Tim Brooke-Taylor as the other team captain, and I'm a huge Goodish fan, and the chance to work with Tim would be brilliant. And I was going to go to Hay-on-Wye anyway to do a book reading, and it just meant staying at Hay-on-Wye for another 4 days, and it's a lovely place to be. And we recorded these panel shows in a tent, and instead of it being about books, it just very quickly became... Clearly, between them deciding to do it and getting there, they decided that no one knew enough about books. And so it was just sort of pop culture questions about the Spice Girls and anything else.
Wow.
So it was a very sort of... it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah. I did an episode of What the Dickens, but it was in a different series to that because it was Sky, film at Sky. Was that before or after?
That was after, and that was... I remember sitting there with Sandy afterwards, and we'd done it thinking it was like a bit of a one-off, and it was to do with hay, and it was an event. Yeah. And then afterwards, everyone started going, "Oh, we think we might get a series." And I was like, "I didn't know this was a pilot. I thought this was just it." And Sandy was like, "If there's a series, Tim, Dave, I'm not doing it without you. I'm not doing it without you." Yeah. And then I got offered the series when it went to series, and I said, "Is Tim doing it?" And they went, "No." So she's bullshit. Sandy, but he might have already said no. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he was offered it and said no, but I said no at that point.
Sue Perkins was one of the team captains.
Sue Perkins and Chris Addison took over as team captains. Yeah. I did it as a guest because there was no ill will. I just didn't want to be doing another series
without Tim Brooke-Taylor.
Not without me and Tim like that. Now.
It's good.
Both got arthritic fingers.
Can you believe it's 5 years since you appeared on this show before?
I can because I have marked time relative to my appearance on this podcast ever since. Okay, I think of my life as before Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast and after. And now it's confusing because I've now got a sort of
two podcasts.
Interregnum to consider, the 5-year interregnum. I'll have to go after the second of it. It's going to get very... So I'll just have to... Maybe I'll just go from when I was born instead from here on in. Probably an easier system. Okay. Yeah.
But a lot has happened in that 5 years, though, hasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, mainly the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again, but it has happened.
Yeah. We had no children, did we, between us?
Neither of us had children. Ago. Now we've got 3 between us, haven't we? 1.5 each.
Yeah. And you kindly offered backstage to take my children on holiday with your in-laws.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
We went on holiday, myself, my wife, and my in-laws, and our child, and it was the best holiday because 4 grown-ups and 1 child is brilliant, especially when their grandparents who are starved of a lot of contact with him, so they really want to spend time with him. So I think since he's been born, myself and my wife have been out together of an evening maybe 6 times,
right.
And 2 of them were on that holiday in 1 week, and it was just joyous. Yeah. And I highly recommend you going on holiday with Ivan Richards.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to bring the kids. I'm just going to go. The best kind of holiday is 2 people, no in-laws and no kids. That is...
I can't remember.
That's the best. Those are the good holidays. I can't remember because we're not allowed to go on holiday anymore. But I've got a son called Ernie, and you've got a son called Eric.
Yeah.
And we called him Ernie.
Yeah.
So that just in case my backup plan of Stuart Lee's son and my son forming a double act.
Yeah.
My real plan was me and Stuart Lee's son forming a double act.
Yeah.
And just the double act consisting of him looking exactly like young Stuart Lee.
Yeah.
Then me being old and him turning to me going, ah! But then my second plan was for my daughter or my son to have a double act with the Lee. But I think like Eric and Ernie.
I was slightly annoyed because we had thought if we have a second child and it's a boy, then Ernie was high on the list.
Okay.
And now we kind of can't. Although, I mean, it's sort of semi-serious. We do think about it, but then there is that point where you would be in a park and they'd both run off and you would be there going, Eric! Ernie! and it would be ridiculous. Yeah. But we did think about it, and now we kind of can't. Right. Because we know you well enough for that to be awkward.
Sorry, Dave.
It's all right.
My nephew has a son.
Yeah.
He's called Albert, so they can do a double act called Bert and Ernie as well. So
you've got it covered both ways.
I really thought
he's the pivot. He has to be in one of them or the other.
Or all of them.
Yeah.
He could just be in everything. He might turn out not to be very funny.
Well, could be genetically, that's quite likely.
It's fun. As Eric started
That's
being...
not fair. Your wife is hilarious.
She is very funny. As Eric started... I had this... Yesterday, we had some friends around, and they did this thing where... you know those big balls, expanding balls from the Science Museum that are just made again? So they're not... Just got thrown quite high in the air, and it hit Phoebe on the head, right? And obviously no damage was done. It's made of pipes. And she went... And then she went, and then she kind of did a really brilliant pratfall, and then lay down for about 3 or 4 minutes as if she was knocked out. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. The timing was brilliant.
Yeah.
I just thought, how she learned to... No one's ever taught her to do that.
Yeah.
And then you just think, this is brilliant. They're starting to be independently amusing.
Yeah.
Has Eric got to that point yet?
Eric is... I don't know how much of it's conscious and how much of it isn't. He does this thing... I think it's very funny, and I think he knows it's funny, and I think he partly does it because he's rewarded with laughter. He will nag you for something. So he loves a mini milk.
Yeah.
So he'll be in the kitchen trying to open the freezer door, going, mini milk, mini milk, mini milk, mini milk, mini milk, mini milk. And if eventually you say, Eric, would you like a mini milk? He goes, OK. As if it was all your idea, which I just love. And
what I like about the ice lolly as currency is my daughter will be like, you'll go in the morning, you'll give her whatever for breakfast. You'll like anything else for breakfast. You'll go, ice lolly? And you go, yes, you can't have ice lollies for breakfast. And you go, oh, please, please. Every morning we go through the same thing. And you say, it will never happen, it never happens. A, it's quite interesting that she keeps on trying. Yeah. B, when she's out the room, I have an ice lolly. Because she's gone on about it so much, it makes me... She likes tangled... She likes tangled twisters.
Yeah.
Have you got those? They're not... Mini milks are probably a bit healthier.
Mini milks are... We feel like it's the healthiest of the ice lollies.
Tango twisters aren't healthy. They're nice.
He had his first taste of pop 2 days ago.
All right.
And that was never again. What's amazing when you see a toddler who's had it was like tango or something, and he just had a few sips of it, and you see how on crack he is after that. Do you know what it reminded me of? Years ago, I was at the New Zealand Comedy Festival, and in New Zealand, they had this energy drink it's basically Red Bull, but it's not Red Bull, and it was in a can, the same diameter, but twice as tall, that was painted to look like a stick of dynamite. And you weren't allowed to sell it to children. It was that potent. It was like, this is for adults only, even though it's just like caffeine and taurine and all that. And one night at the sort of late night festival club, Bill Bailey decided to drink 4 and then do his set. And so we all sort of crowded on the balcony to watch the most hyper Bill you've ever seen in your life, and it was hilarious. And Eric was that after 3 sips of tango. Yeah. And you look at it and go, what's amazing actually is how we are able to process that kind of sugar without going like that, because that's what it does to the human body. Yeah. And he was completely hyper. And we were driving home from a soft play, and he sort of never does this, but again, this really, really made us laugh, because we're driving along, and there's always cars here and there's cars there, and all of a sudden we sort of slowed down in traffic, and Eric looked out the window and went, hello, car, it's Eric. Why did you not say hello to all the other cars? Why are you rude to all of them? There are just as many of them. What's the thing?
Oh, that's nice. Do you think when comedians have children, they become quite boring and just talk about their kids?
I think comedians whose children aren't as fascinating as mine. Yeah, probably.
I think it's quite interesting because lots of people say that to comedians.
Yeah,
I don't think it really stacks up, because you see a lot of comedians have kids. And it's not like Stuart and Bridget, who had kids and were still doing shows with young kids, and doing very inventive, incredible shows. But also, I think it says more about the kind of people who say that than it does, because it's like going, I have to go and see a comedian who shares the same life experience as me, and the minute they don't anymore, it's boring to me. Is that fair?
I think for me, especially because I do the stuff with PowerPoint, the whole point of that for me is, you don't have to know about it in advance. I'm going to show you all the details. I'm going to show you all my working. You don't ever have to have seen this thing. You will still be able to find it funny. So I've done shows in America where American audiences are finding Homes Under the Hammer funny, right? And they've never seen it. And they're not sitting there going, how dare you talk to us about this? They're watching the thinking and the working out, and it's absolutely fine. Yeah. And so, inevitably, my TV diet has changed. And so I've done material about Topsy and Tim, but all I'm doing is applying exactly the same methodology as I applied to Topsy and Tim as I applied previously to Holmes and the Hammer.
Yes.
And you don't need to have watched it.
No.
And it's not twee. The thing to avoid for me is the, opening the nappy and him weeing on you and all that sort of observational stuff, which I think that's been dealt with.
Well, when it's been done,
yeah. But there's other stuff in there, and you just sort of apply this. If you're doing it your way, then I don't think it really matters what it is.
Look, the new show is you've done 5 series. Is it the 5th series or the 4th?
Yeah, the 5th series is on at the moment.
Of Modern Life is Goodish.
Yeah.
And it's sort of an incredible feat, and we do see each other socially every now and again, so I know how hard you work on it. But you're basically writing. Well, how many episodes in this series? 8 episodes.
There's 8 in it. There's 36 across the 5 series. We did the first series was 6, then we did 2 of 8, and then the year it was born, I said I'm not doing 8, so we did 6 again.
Yeah, fair
and
enough.
now we've done 8 this year.
Can't do 8 in that a year like that. That would be insane.
So it's 36 in total.
Yeah. So you're basically, they're an hour long or 50 minutes long.
Sort of 45, 46 minutes in
So
telly
you're basically writing
got
8 Edinburgh shows a year.
Yeah, with a bit of help. I'm not. And I have some brilliant people working with me, but it has to have a sort of integrity, and it is. I get loads of people, punters, sort of saying, "Oh, you should do stuff about this," and I tried occasionally, and it never works. It works when it comes from my own experience.
Yeah.
So even though there's people helping me, I kind of have to be instigating most of it.
Yeah.
And creating most of it.
And doing the PowerPoint yourself, which is incredibly difficult, isn't it? You haven't never found anyone who can do the PowerPoint.
We tried. Basically, it's sort of limited by my flaws. So I've never been able to write something and then say to someone else, "Can you see how that's PowerPointed? Go and do that bit of the job."
Yeah.
A lot of I basically never write anything down on paper. I build PowerPoint, and as I'm building it, I think of jokes. And unless I'm actually looking at how the PowerPoint moves and changes, and there's about 500, 600 slides in an hour, unless I'm doing that, I don't think of the things. Right. So it's impossible, and it's a really slow, fucking boring part of the job. So I work 100 hours a week for the 2 weeks before recording, and I go to bed at 5 in the morning, and I'm at my desk again at 10 in the morning. And that's the only way of getting it done.
Yeah.
And it's kind of brutal, but that's not kind of, oh, woe is me. It's just for 2 weeks, that's the only way of making enough slides.
Sure.
That's it. So it's just a bit
But it's
of a pain
incredible.
in the arse.
I think we both discussed how hard each other work.
Yeah.
But that's an incredible...
You're about the only person I can go, but you look at all you do, it's fair enough with...
But then, a lot of my stuff's just me messing around, making up as I go along, so that's easy. But then, to be writing shows that are that well crafted, and they've got callbacks within them, and they all work as individual shows, it's a very impressive, series, a show, and then it's 6
Thank
series
you.
worth. I'm really enjoying this series. I've seen all, as we talk, 4 episodes have gone out, though. I think they will...
And this is going to go out in the new year, won't it? So they'll all have gone out.
They'll all have gone out.
Yeah.
So I'll just imagine the second 4 are good too.
They are.
Yeah, okay.
They're all right. Yeah. I mean, if you like the first 4, I think you'll like the next 4.
But I quite like it's nice if you watch all of them, you do some nice callbacks to previous shows without it being exclusive as well, I think. So
It's a weird, it sort of feeds itself. And the first couple of times we were talking about something that had like an echo in series 2. I don't even an example, but we're talking about something that had an echo of something in series 1, and the audience would remember it, and you could tell from their reaction. So now we're just like every time there's the opportunity. Since series 3. Every time there's been reason to talk about a £20 note, it's been folded in a particular way, and every time the audience sees it folded in a particular way, there's a little ripple of applause. And God knows what people who have never seen the show before think. Like there's some really boring origami fans out there. But there's lots of that, and it has kind of created its own little ecosystem for a certain audience.
I like Neil Sean.
Yes.
Who has made a couple of appearances.
He has.
And this series is sort of extraordinary in that you found this DVD of D.R.W.H.O. with the lost interviews of Doctor Who.
It is one of the most extraordinarily awful pieces of merchandise I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not a Doctor Who fan, so I don't sort of bring a lot of knowledge to it, but I can watch it and go, that's bullshit, every single step of the way. And it's literally, it boasts on it with original, exclusive and extensive interviews with David Tennant, Doctor Who himself. And he was the Doctor Who at the time this was released. And
there's about 4.5 minutes on the DVD with David Tennant, 1.5 minutes of which is repeated. So actually there's about 3 minutes with David Tennant. And in the other 1.5 minutes, that's not the bit that's repeated, Neil Sean asks one question, and the other question is asked by the journalist who stood next to him. And David Tennant cannot wait to get away from both of them. And it's quite remarkable. And he's just sort of lying.
Yeah, well, but, it's that cashing in thing where certain people will buy everything.
Yes.
Do you know how much that DVD is currently on eBay, on Amazon for?
It's over 100 quid now, isn't it?
£195.60.
Yeah. It was $3.99 when we did the material about it. Yeah. But the kind of... There's this thing on Amazon. This sort of happens in a small way to one of my DVDs as well. There's a great blog about it, and it's some guy who wrote an academic textbook about insects discovered that his book was selling for like $450 on Amazon. And the reason is you get two sellers on Amazon, and one of them, they just sort of operate by an algorithm. So one of them will have an algorithm that says, find out what our competitors are selling this for.
Right.
And then match it. And the other one is going, we've got a really strong reputation. We are a very trusted seller. So find out what our competitors are selling for, and then add on 2%. And so one of them goes in at £9, and the other one goes in at £9 plus 2%, and the other one goes, all right, we can go at £9 and 2%. And then they go, oh, bloody hell, they're at £9 and 2%, let's add 2%. And it just goes up and up and up and up. And if it's a book that no one is buying, there's no break on that process, and it just escalates. And it ends up, in this case, it's not proof that anyone will pay £195 for his DVD. It's proof that no one will pay £3 for his DVD. And so it's just travelled, and neither of those sellers have gone, what the fuck? Put it down.
But then also, I'm sure people, having seen your episode, I would love to watch the DVD. I would love to watch that DVD now. It's the same as everyone going on about Don Estelle's autobiography being sort of terrible and poorly written, and then you...
There's definitely an ironic enjoyment. And if people, and there were certainly people I know who bought it for that ironic pleasure, and they probably helped to sort of create a tension that made those algorithms kick in or something. But it is... because generally, like when we've taken the piss out of people on the show, it's really tongue-in-cheek, and it's a very... the only person I've ever given a proper kicking to is Neil Sean.
Yes.
And I've now done it twice. And I do absolutely hate the man. I think he's a charlatan. I think he's a mean-spirited little shit. I think he's unprofessional. I think he's lazy. I think he is illiterate. I think he teaches people. He offers courses where he takes money to teach how to broadcast. And there's his DVD that is self-shot and badly lit and full of lies. His writing is appalling. I want to do... he's written a book about Marilyn Monroe, and I want to release a book where I do a sentence-by-sentence critique of it, where I just... Because literally, the first sentence is incorrect. And so is the second, and so is the third. Like, just find him the most appalling human being, and he's a leech. He just sort of... He's a showbiz, waspy kind of critic of people, and he sits on the fringes being mean-spirited and looking at women and going, oh, that dress. And he's just mean. There's just nothing nice about what he does, and I just think he's awful. And because I can't hide how much I hate him, and it's less funny when you know there's actual hatred in there, and I don't want to hate him. I can't help how much I hate him because he's so... mean-spirited and evil in what he does. He's so bad at what he does, and what he does shows so little respect for an audience. And that's genuinely is the thing that annoys me the most. The idea that you think that's okay to toss that shit out with lies and bullshit and everything's incorrect and you're trying to take money. I just think it's a horrible thing to do, and I can't hide that. And when we were sort of doing dry runs of the material. My hatred would sort of bubble over, and an audience who would be laughing along would suddenly be going, oh, God. Oh. Is that a bit harsh? And we solved it by getting a Doctor Who expert in. And he's a very funny comic, Toby Hadoke. And he's also happens to be like the biggest Doctor Who fan in the world, and he does a podcast all about Doctor Who. And when anything Doctor Who is happening, he'll appear on BBC Breakfast as the Doctor Who expert and whatever. So he's a proper aficionado. And we didn't show him any of the DVD. Instead of me relating what I thought about the show, which had that kind of bubbling, seething hatred, which I try my hardest to disguise, I would just sort of play a bit and then go, Toby, what do you think? And it allowed me to be completely clean, and his shock, just visible that he looked like we were making it up, like the whole thing was a sketch, like we'd paid Neil Sean to record something that appalling.
Yeah.
There's a bit where he says, in this exclusive interview, I talked to Felicity Kendall about what it was like playing Agatha Christie in Doctor Who. And then there's a clip of him talking to Felicity Kendall, and it's about a West End play, and at no point does he mention her playing Agatha Christie in Doctor Who. And I'm Toby, the Doctor Who expert, is there, and I was saying, why do you think he doesn't mention her playing Agatha Christie in Doctor Who? And he goes, because she didn't play Agatha Christie in Doctor Who. It's that bad. Yeah. Not only is he not doing the thing he said he's doing, he can't do the thing he's doing because the thing he said he would be doing isn't possible. She didn't play that. Imagine doing that little research. You don't even know what part Felicity Kendall played that you're pretending you were talking to her about when you weren't talking to her about it. It's just mind-blowing to be that bad.
And have you heard from him what he thinks about your coverage of him?
No, the first time we talked about him, and it was about, he used to have a column in the Metro. It was a sort of...
Fuckers.
Yeah. There was like a showbiz gossip column called Green Room Behind Closed Doors. And it was all this sort of, so-and-so's been smoking outside the green room, and, Kylie says this, so-and-so's excited to be getting a part in the West End. It was just like sentences, and lots of them repeated and messed around, and just like, you could see sort of tropes in it, and so it was very easy to sort of go through. And he got really, really upset, and started sort of complaining, and he got a couple of his sort of, I don't know if he got a couple of his showbiz friends were sort of the next morning going, I don't know why Dave Gorman was being so harsh about Neil Sean. To which the answer is he's a professional journalist who is incompetent, and it's a nationally syndicated column, and I've proved here's 3 lies from him, and here's his book, which is full of distortions and dishonesty, and him appearing on Australian national television and saying, Prince William told me that the way he gets a good scent is to mix 2 aftershaves so you get a unique smelling point. No, he didn't. Right? There's absolutely no way Prince William told you that. You're just lying, right? Just literally, it's just calling out a liar for being a liar. It's really, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fair game. It's not like just some chancer with a blog. He's broadcasting to a nation, this sort of stuff, And one of a Sky News reader was the next one. God, Dave's been a bit harsh about Neil, because Neil used to be a pundit on his show. And I sent him a copy of some tweets that Neil Sean had sent, saying, are you sure he's a nice guy? And there's a tweet from Neil that says, now I know why they wear a burqa, saw the wind blow on up, pot ugly. Yeah, exactly. This is the man we're talking about, right? And this Sky News reader immediately went, I didn't know that. Fair enough. Go for your life. And Neil decided that the show was homophobic. And there was literally at no point, I didn't do an impression of him, I didn't do anything that was sort of campish, I didn't do a voice for him, I literally just read his words, and his sexuality did not come into it. And because he was getting upset, I was using TweetDeck at the time, and I created a column for @NeilSean1. I do like the fact that he has to have the username @NeilSean1. It's just sort of a bit satisfying. So I had a column running for that, and I would see every comment that was going to him. And most of them were just going, you liar, you've been, and giving him a little dig in the ribs for it. Occasionally, people would be tweeting things like, you fucking cunt, and I would tell them off. I would always go, that's not fair, that's personal abuse, leave it out.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing here. So I was completely honest. I read every single tweet that was going to him. And I thought I'd call him at work, so I called his work and said, can I speak to Neil Sean, please? And they said, who's speaking? I said, it's Dave Gorman. And they said, OK, wait a minute. And this sort of panic on the phone. And he said, what do you want? I said, I'm just calling to make peace. I don't know why you're upset. Literally, you're a professional journalist. Part of what you do is you criticise other people. You say this person's performance isn't good enough, this person's this. I'm saying you're a liar, here's my proof. And I'm providing the proof, and an audience wouldn't go with it if I didn't have the proof. If I didn't have, here's a thing he wrote, and here's another thing he wrote, and here's another thing he wrote, and here's the truth. You can't do that without the proof. It doesn't work. So I can back up everything I've said about you, and I don't know why you're upset, because you do this to other people. This is your game. You're a professional, and what's the deal? You go, well, I've been getting homophobic abuse. I go, on Twitter? You go, yes. I go, I've seen every tweet sent to you. You haven't. Well, they've been sending direct messages. Well, at the time, you could only send a direct message to someone if you were following them. And he was following 28 people, and one of them was Cher. You haven't. And if the people you're following in this direct message, then that's not the people watching this. Well, I'm taking it up with the police. And then he started writing to sort of gay campaign groups going, this comedian is homophobic and he's been doing material about me, slagging me off for being gay, and sort of trying to incite the sort of placard-waving crowd against me. And he wrote to Boy George saying all this. And Boy George is following me on Twitter, so I sent him a direct message and said, look, I'm sure you've dismissed Neil Sean's rantings for what they are. But just on the off chance that any part of that made you concerned, here's a link to where the episode's online. No pressure. But I swear if you watch it, you'll see there's not a homophobic word in the show. And he went, oh, don't worry, I hate Queens as well.
I mean, what's astonishing about it is the whole of the show, every show of Modern Life is Goodish. You're at such pains, I think, always to make sure that you're not seen as targeting the wrong thing. I think of all the comedians I've seen, you're the most careful, I think, in terms of this isn't about this is about this.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no suggestion with it. I didn't even realise he was gay, to be honest.
No, exactly. You can watch the show and there's absolutely nothing you would take away knowing anything about his sexuality. No. So it's entirely a thing he brought into the argument. And he got really upset last time and he made it worse for himself. And I'm genuinely pleased that this time he maintained a dignified silence. Although with the Doctor Who DVD, where literally almost every word is a lie, it would be really hard to defend. I mean, he would be really... a sticky wicket.
He's sitting at home printing up more copies of that DVD and cashing it.
Good luck to the man. I wish him no ill. I just wish he'd try and do things well.
And in that same episode, you talk about you're talking about kind of copying things that copies. You come across various Disney-style DVDs. So there's instead of Happy Feet, there's Tappy Toes. Yeah. And instead of there's one that's Tappy. I went on Amazon. Tappy Toes is $4.99. Yeah. If you want to buy that to see that.
Don't.
There's a 3-pack which has Tappy Toes, Puss in Boots, and Chop Kick Panda. Yeah. That costs £4.48. So if you want to buy Tappy Toes, which I kind of do, having seen a little clip of it.
My favourite is Ratatouille. which is exactly what you think it is. From the time, they are remarkable things. Yes. I think they're largely Brazilian or Portuguese is where they're made. I know one or the other, and they're just these sort of cheap animation houses. Yeah. And I don't know if they have to achieve sort of a 60-minute or a 90-minute running time to qualify. I don't know why they are as long as they are, but each and every one of them has got a scene, several scenes where the same bit of animation is just used over and over and over and over and over and over and over again because it's cheap, and nothing significant is happening.
Has anyone done one with the Shrek in it? Got a Shrek. I might do.
It's probably not a Shrek, because they wouldn't be allowed to have a Shrek. Well, but there's probably a.
If it's a Shrek with a lowercase s, it might work.
There's almost certainly one with a green ogre that's not called Shrek. That's called
I want to see that.
Else.
I'm going to look at it. Again, I want to buy all these things. And I don't know if we talked about this last time, but you were in the Daily Show in the mid 2000s.
I had a little stint there.
Along with John Oliver.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about John Oliver's American success?
I love John Oliver's American success. I was actually this is going to be a very self-aggrandising anecdote, for which I apologise, but it is the truth. This illustrates something about British and American TV, and the fact that I'm a part of this story just makes me a sort of Zelig figure that I don't actually have any great impact on anything. But I had years ago, I was a script editor on the 11 o'clock show. which is much derided by many people, but also featured an incredibly talented bunch of people who almost all went on to do great things and whatever. And it was a weird show, and it was a bit late night, and it was a bit swearing. I wasn't a huge fan of the show, but it paid my Edinburgh debts to script edit it for one series. And because of my involvement in that, and because I'd done some Daily Show stuff, Channel 4 were looking to bring back a new sort of 11 o'clock show that was going to be the new answer to The Daily Show, only British. And I got called in for a meeting by people who said, would you help us produce it? And I said, no, satire's not really my beat. I'm not really doing very topical stuff on The Daily Show. It's not my thing. And they were going, oh, please, even if you don't have to do anything on camera, even if you leave the minute we've cast it, if you could help us put the thing together because you have an insight into it and you've seen how they do it and we'd be really interested. I was going, I'm not going to do it. In my experience, and obviously people at Channel 4 have changed, but some of the people there, what they wanted when they did the 11 o'clock show was young people who'd do what they were told. And I don't think you can have satire with young people who do what they're told. I think you need to have old people who have an opinion and are going to go, no, we're not fucking doing that, we're doing this, because it matters. And they have to have a bit of that in them to be a proper satirist. And rather than, yeah, certainly, if you want to stand here and say that, absolutely, I don't think that's what makes a satirist. So I was like, that was what was wrong with it last time. I worry that it'll be like that again, in which case I don't want to really be involved. My top tip to you would be to hire John Oliver. I think he's brilliant. And he's the only sort of working comic on the circuit at the moment who's got the gravitas and who is actually a satirist, who's actually doing proper satire rather than pointing out that particular politicians are ugly or fat or whatever. Talking about the issues. And they went, yeah, we told Channel 4 that, but they're not interested. They didn't like his voice. And I went, do you mean his comic voice? His attitude? And they went, no, his accent. So Channel 4 turned down John Oliver when they were trying to do a British reboot of The Daily Show. A couple of months later, I was in New York doing some Daily Show stuff, and we'd finished the recording, and I was walking back into the offices with John and the series producer. And they said to me, you probably know we're looking for an English correspondent on the show. And I said, yeah. And there was no part of me thinking, oh, were they going to accept? Because I didn't want to move to New York, and they knew I was very comfortable doing my little bits every now and then. And they said, we've auditioned a whole load of people, just interested, is there anyone you'd recommend? And I said, yeah, John Oliver. And they went, it's so good to hear that, because that's who we've hired. So the Americans who do the show that Channel 4 were trying to copy had looked at everyone in England and gone, he's the man. Yeah. And when Channel 4 were trying to copy them, they couldn't fucking even copy that, which I found remarkable. Yes. It was, but John, I crossed over a little bit, because I used to go over and do like 3 shows in one day or over a couple of days and be there for a week, and then go away again, and they'd sort of show them. And I was never great on it. I never really nailed it. I'm not sort of, it was all right occasionally, but it wasn't as good as it should be, as that show should be. And John came in and just blitzed it from the beginning. Yeah. And you could see him going, people will let me do this. I've been trying to do this for ages and nobody would let me. This is nice. And he was just like duck to water, and absolutely deserves all his success because he is fucking brilliant at that.
Yes, he is. It's insane that, it's absolutely insane that he had to go to America.
It is. Well, but he was there and he was available, and they could have had him doing that show over here had they had the appetite for it. But somebody at Channel 4 decided he had an estuary accent that they weren't impressed with.
Yeah. Well, I did. There was some like E4 attempt at like it was pilots. I think I'm not sure they even went. And maybe they went out as well, but who knows? But
on E4,
we did a week-long thing. But it was like a panel, and John and Andy were both on that panel.
Yeah.
But there was about 10. It was like a big table with about 10 people, and everyone trying to get in on it, and it was just like a disaster. But again, it had such amazing people in it, and again, John Oliver there, being.
I know it's such a ridiculous missed opportunity.
But there we go. Oh.
Now, Richard.
Yes.
If you could be hung like a horse.
Yeah.
But also. Yeah. Be the size and shape of a horse. But not a horse. Or be hung like a mouse and be you. Which would you be? This is from my book. Emergency Questions.
It's a good question. Well, I mean, the second one is what I am at the moment anyway. So I would try. I've got quite fascinated with horses. I live in the countryside now. Look, Dave. Look, my trousers have mud on them.
Yeah.
Because I live in the countryside. And everywhere you walk
My trousers have got shit on them because I've got a kid.
Yeah. Well, it might be that as well. But horses fascinate me. I've talked about it a little bit already on this podcast, but they don't look... When you get up close to them, and I grew up in the country, so I should know this.
Yeah.
When you get close to them, they don't look real. I think, there's things that make... When you start living in the countryside, I start thinking that the world is like a Truman Show construct, and they've put most of the work into the cities to make them look real. And when you get to the country, everything just sort of starts. And you go up close to a horse and you look at it, and you go, "That's not a real thing." Their kind of face is weird. They've got hair. It's like got hairstyles. There's a horse really near to me that looks exactly like Dobby from Peep Show, and just the same hairstyle. And it's just like, and that is no insult to Izzy City. It's the horse just has the same hairstyle as the character.
What's that?
And someone's just gone, I'll just use the Izzy just use the Dobby from Peep Show
Simpsons
template.
line of in the Simpsons episode where they're filming something and the kids are all watching them film something, and they have to paint horses to look like cows.
Right.
And they go, "Why are you painting the horses?" "Cows just don't look like cows on film. we have to paint horses." "So what do you do for horses?" Usually we just tape a load of cats together."
They're really... They've got whiskers, right? Horses got whiskers.
Yeah.
God, that's not right. They never have to go through a narrow place. They don't even have to know how wide they are. They've got
Do you
little
think their
beards.
whiskers are as wide as the horse?
That's what they don't need whiskers.
For the canal towing.
They don't need whiskers. They scratch their ears with their back hooves. That is weird.
Just going to point out, Richard, that both you and I have got whiskers, and neither of us need them either.
Mine are the same width. Paul Chowdhury's are the same width as his...
Yeah. Paul Chowdhury's moustache is the same width as him, but neither you or I are there.
Question. I definitely didn't ask you this question. I'll ask this. This is the last I'm going to ask it. If you were going to be in a human centipede, the last time it's ever going to
Richard
be...
Herring, Stuart Lee.
Wow. Am I at the front?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
No, sorry. I'd rather just answer that than think about it. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a good day.
Here tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, we're not going to do it. It wasn't like, well, now I didn't know I had the chance.
Please
I was
welcome.
really dealing in the hypothetical if you had to, not if you could.
Please welcome Stuart Lee and the mad scientist.
If the question began, if you could be in a human centipede, the answer would be, I wouldn't choose to be in a human centipede. It's definitely posited on the if you had to. There's no other way of that question getting an answer.
You were Lee Mack's Phone a Friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I was, yeah.
And you got the question right.
I did, yeah.
You've been very successful in
This
quiz
irks
shows.
you a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because, in America, they have, in showbiz, they would talk about the EGOT, for people who've got an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the FPC, which is the British showbiz equivalent of I've won 15 to 1, Pointless, and The Chase.
Have you won? Did you win the money on The Chase?
Yeah, 100 grand. And do you know what? And this is the thing about it, because it's a really good day out. I had a brilliant time doing it. My team was Nigel Havers, Melinda Messenger. Did not expect that. Michelle, someone from Emmerdale.
Yeah.
Because I don't watch Emmerdale, I don't know more than that, but she was Michelle and she's very nice. And myself. And they went through the line and Nigel won £1,000. And then Melinda won, I think, £3,000. And then, or maybe it was, I can't remember, it's a bit more. And then Michelle won like £7,000. And then I won 7 or 8, or I think it was about 7, about the same as her, whatever. But then I got offered the big money, and I was offered £86,000, which took it to 100.
Yeah.
Whatever they'd won before, mine took it to 100. And so I went for it and won it, and then we beat the Chaser.
Wow.
which is really exciting, and we're all cheering, and Nigel is cheering, we're all going, and everyone has won 25 grand, and a part of you is going, fuck off, Nigel. £86,000, £1,000, 86! But you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to be that guy in the middle of that celebration. It's a team! We're a team! We won 100, 86 of it was me! Fuckers! Why am I not being carried aloft? Why is it all high fives and hey, aren't we brilliant?
I'm glad that winning could make you as angry as losing makes you.
But I watched your most recent Pointless, and I felt sorry for you.
Yeah.
You did well.
Because I was married to Katie.
No, I've never felt sorry for being married. I've always thought, bloody hell, well done. About that. Right. But it was a tough. You got close. You got very close.
It's very close. Robert Lindsay's
And I
daughter.
know that because I've seen you talk about it on Twitter and stuff, that in the final round that you didn't get into, you did have a pointless answer. Yeah. So had you got through, you would have won the money. And I know, because it's the same as when I was on it. I had a pointless answer for the final round. The difference being, I got to the final round. That's what separates us, Richard. That's what separates us.
2 points. That was.
We were lucky to get through the first round.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind in that third, because that third appearance, I just felt like so amazed we got through every round. We looked like we weren't going to get through.
Yeah.
And I gave answers that I wasn't even sure were right, and we got through, and we managed to get through. So I was just relieved to have, but then I got the first answer in the head-to-head right. It was like, this is all heading the right way. We got the one. They went first, and we got their answer right. We just need to get out with the first answer right.
Yeah. The weird thing, because
Richard Osman did it on purpose.
Yeah. I was doing it with my partner on Pointless was John Shuttleworth,
who isn't even a real person.
No, who isn't a real person. And I know Graham a little bit, not very well, but I've sort of met him a few times and I've always got on with him, and I'm a huge fan. And when I was a student in Manchester and I'd just started doing stand-up, I saw him do a gig at the Buzz Club. It's one of the best live shows I've ever seen in my life. It was just phenomenal, and that never leaves you, and so I'm always a fan. Yeah. It's not someone I met in a dressing room and got on with and I was on the bill with. I was a kid in the audience watching this genius blow the roof off a place. It was so good. And so I've always got a bit of that with me. And so I'm stood next to him on Pointless just going, this is ridiculous. Right? And also I'm watching him play the machinations. He's playing the game like nobody else, because he's thinking not just, what do I know, but what would John know? and actually answering in character and not saying things if he thinks, no, John wouldn't know that. It's just like such a weird restriction to place on yourself on a show like that. But it was a joy. You
still won.
I did, yeah. Which now I'm very nervous about accepting any other quiz shows, because I feel like my record...
Well, you need to do Tipping Point. I mean, it doesn't count without Tipping Point.
A bit more of a game of chance.
Well...
Have you done Tipping Point?
No, I would love to. If you know the producers, please let them know.
I've got a friend who is a friend of the producers.
Okay,
I don't know the producer myself.
I think I'm not ITV enough. I'm not ITV enough to go on The Chase, which is, apparently.
I didn't think I was.
No.
But somebody...
It was a veiled insult.
Yeah.
It's all I...
I'd take no insult in it. Not at all.
I'd love to be
it would
ITV
feel like an insult if you'd won Pointless. But,
I got the highest ever score in Celebrity Mastermind.
And then what happened?
Someone else got a higher score 2 minutes later. But then someone got a much higher score in a later one, so it was still all right.
I've been really, 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 really lucky on... genuinely, I'm not... like when I did 15 to 1, the series producer on the first 4 series of my show, he still works on my show, but he's not a series producer now, but his first ever job in telly was on 15 to 1. And so he used to write questions for it, and that's where he sort of earned his spurs in telly, under the William G. Stewart tutelage. And he was a real student of how the game played out. And when I came in the next day, he was like, oh, how did you do? And I won it. He was like, bloody hell, well done. What podium were you in? I was like, 15. He went, no way. 1 and 15 are always the worst. 1 and 15, normally they're the ones who get picked off first. For some reason, the people in the centre don't get picked as much, and the people sort of look at the ends and they pick them. And actually, it was Frank Skinner was in Podium 1, and Lucy Porter was in Podium 14, and I was in Podium 15. So we were in the 3 out of the 4 worst podiums, according to this expert's theory. And we became the final 3. And I think part of it was Frank started things off, and they said, oh, nominate someone. And obviously, as there always are on these sort of things with 15 people, there's a mixture of people with different disciplines, but there were a few comics around. And Frank said, I don't think I should pick on another comic. I think the comics should not pick on one another, so I'm going to pick on, and he named an athlete or whatever. And that became a bit rude for a comic to pick on a comic.
Yes.
So we were all a little bit protected. And I just thought, I'm going to say nothing. I'm just going to absolutely draw no attention to myself. I know, I just played almost mum, and I only spoke if I was absolutely forced, and it became my question. And so nobody nominated me for ages. I think probably I've got a bit of a good table game. It's like poker, and people thought he might be good.
Yeah.
But people kept picking on Lucy Porter, and she kept picking them off and getting the answer right, and then going at them again. Like, she's such a good quizzer. And I only got through by saying nothing. Yeah. And then in the final round, I just watched Frank and Lucy pick on each other until they were dead. And then I just cleaned up a few and made a few quid. But I was just so lucky. It was like I was wearing an invisibility cloak on 15-1, which is the best tactic.
Like, did you literally try and hide behind the little... Did you try and duck down and hide behind the little lights?
I did what I could with my... I didn't actually go down, but I sort of did hold myself in. And sort of... I didn't make eye contact with anyone. I just stared into the middle distance and... pretended I wasn't there.
All right, stop going on about all your quiz shows. You're good at.
I'm surprised it took you this long to get there, to be honest with you. It's the thing I was most looking forward to talking to you.
I know, I knew you would. That's why I didn't want to bring it up. Your new tour, which I can't believe you've had time to write anything, is starting... You can't have written it yet.
I've got a bit.
You've got some?
I've got some written.
It's starting in the autumn of 2018, is it?
Yeah, September.
Yeah. So with great PowerPoint comes great responsibility point.
Yeah. Although at least one venue has printed tickets that say the title is "With great power comes great responsibility," which is missing the point.
It is.
Twice, as it goes. But yeah, which is what that's the thing. Like, you have to have a title so that people know it's a new show, but you can't give it a title because you haven't written it all yet. So you just have to.
Yeah, it's a good title.
Some construction of words.
I think if you come up with a title that makes people laugh straight away, that's a good... Joe Lycett's the king of it.
That's absolutely the best, yeah. That's the way, Joe Lycett.
Yes.
Yeah. It's perfect title. But also, he's peaked.
Yes.
With that, so... Where else is he going to go?
Apart from that, he does have another one. He's done other ones. Yeah. That is the best.
That is the best title.
It is hard to top that. So
Carl Donnelly had a very good one. I can't remember what it was, but I remember thinking, oh yeah.
He had a really good poster where his head was too small for his shoulders or something like that.
Yeah.
What's going to be? Is it going to be more of the old same all the rubbish that you do on a telly?
Yeah, more of that. I mean, it will be different to that, but it'll be that is. I've sort of... I am basically a double act with a screen. That is what I do. Yeah. And it would be weird. This is the thing. With Modern Life is Goodish, whether people like it or dislike it, I'm the only comic in the last 15 years to be given a show, which is a solo stand-up show, that is like what they do live.
Yes.
There isn't a single other comic who does like an extended, long-form stand-up is a thing.
Yeah.
And on telly, stand-up exists in 7-minute chunks.
Yeah.
But actually, the people who do big tours that 7 minutes isn't what they're best at.
No.
It isn't a series of 7 minutes. What you're best at is shaping something that lasts 90 minutes and it's got some form. And that's what I do for a living. And I find it very hard to turn that into a 7-minute piece with a beginning, a middle, and end, because what I'm doing is in minute 47 of my show, I'm calling back to minutes 7 and 13 and 28. You know, that's the structure of what I do. You can't put that into these really short sets. And I just feel genuine, I know it sounds pious or whatever, but like a real sense of privilege to be the guy who got that opportunity. Occasionally I get tweets from people sort of going, oh, I really like that show. It should be on proper telly. It should be on BBC Two. It should be... Well, show me when BBC Two last gave someone an hour-long stand-up show.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't exist. I'm the only guy who's been given this opportunity. That's a brilliant privilege. What a shot.
Yeah, no,
to be able to do it.
It is
like
terrific
such
to be. Well, and you know, but no, even comedians don't really get the chance to do sketch shows, or you know,
Yeah.
so if you can manage to get a sitcom, that might happen.
Yeah, yeah.
There's mainly panel shows. And,
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's the way to appear on TV.
And for some people, they can
the short set.
reflect what they do in stand-up on a panel show, but a lot of people can't.
No.
And for a lot of people, you know, if they got a sitcom or whatever, you could have a really funny sitcom and have people come and see you live and go, God, I didn't think it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
Because they can't be the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas mine, it's an advert. Right? If you don't like that, you won't like seeing me live. If you like that, you will like seeing me live.
Yeah.
You just will. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the form of it. So that's as good a calling card as you can get. And I'm very happy for people who don't like it to not come and the people who do to come. That's that's a good thing.
Yeah. And are you going to do more of the TV series, or is it? I know it's been a struggle for you.
I don't know. We did the first series and they commissioned 2 more immediately, and then we did the second. While we were making the third series, they commissioned 2 more. But then I had Eric, and it is this 100 hours a week that we can't find a way around. We tried our hardest to find different ways of doing it during series 4, and they all failed, and I ended up working harder to solve the problems that we'd created by trying to solve the problems. And I love it, and I'm really proud of it. I can't do it next year because of the tour, because this series took 8 months to make, and you can't really do other work and an 8-month series. There isn't time in the year to make things happen and do the other things. So can't do it next year. So I've sort of said, like, they would like more, and I don't want to say no, but I also don't want to say yes. So, like, I've said no next year, and during that year, I'm perfectly comfortable with the idea that they might go, oh, we got some new toys and we don't need you anymore. And I'm also perfectly comfortable with the idea that I go, do you know what, it's really nice going to bed at the same time as my wife. Oh, that's nice, I don't want to do it anymore. So I don't know what's going to happen beyond next year. I've just said, let's put the brakes on and be friendly rather than commit to it and then have it hanging over me.
And if you have a year of not doing it, you'll forget that it's how difficult it is and go back to doing it again.
Yeah. And if that happens, I will always come back to this podcast.
Good. Then we could talk.
To remind myself.
You did Taskmaster with Paul. You were in the same series as Paul.
I was on the same show as Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
And loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Having talked about winning quizzes, that's the one thing I'm really jealous that I didn't. I came second on the series.
Right.
And they're now doing a best of, like the winners of the first 5 series are now doing a sort of champions of champions, and I so wish I'd won it. I so wish I was doing that, because it's the most fun in the world.
Looks like
You can't. It doesn't matter whether you do something well or not. It's funny to watch it back. If you're absolutely shit at something, that's excruciating but kind of funny to watch, and if you're really good at anything, that's just triumphant to watch, and you just can't lose on the show. It's just such a funny thing to be a part of.
It's a brilliant, and we talked a bit about with Richard Osman as well, just in that it was that groundbreaking. He was saying he had a similar format, well, in terms of the returning people.
Yeah.
And just before Taskmaster came out, everyone going, no,
you
can't do the same people. No one will watch the same people doing it every week. And obviously you do that, and everyone goes, let's do the same people coming back every week.
And I give props to Dave as a channel, because they've had some successes with it, with their original programming. I know everyone mocks them for showing a lot of repeats and all of that, but actually, when they get things right, luckily my show has done well for them, but Taskmaster's done brilliantly for them as well. And what they can't, I don't think they can do well with a panel show that's a bit like another panel show and just as good as another panel show. I think people won't go down the dial to them if it looks and feels like the sort of thing that's available on BBC Two or Channel 4 or whatever. And the things they've had success with are things where you go, I've not seen anything look like that before. Bloody hell, that's novel.
Yeah.
And so they're the one channel that actually really pays to break the mould.
Yeah.
And so other channels were going, no, we're not sure we want to have the same people back every week, isn't it just a panel show? And they were the ones going, oh, other people wouldn't do this. Ah, good for us.
Yeah.
And they enjoy being that channel, and they really back things if they work as well. You know, they really get behind it and promote it and stuff. So I've got nothing but positive things to say about it.
It is. I mean, but it's interesting because it's sort of, again, it's a no-brainer that someone in a stand-up doing a stand-up show would work. You know what I mean? It's sort of bizarre that everyone else is more or less that. And Stuart's the only other person that has got.
But even those were halves.
They were half hours,
and then I love the show, but
and they've still taken away. But only you and he have managed to take what you want to do and put it onto TV. Yeah. What you're good at doing. And
I think what people don't necessarily get with Taskmaster, and one of the reasons it's so much fun to do, is there's actually a really big gap between you doing all the tasks and you being in the studio watching them back. Because they have to take all that footage away and edit it and work out what they're going to do with it and shape them and decide which ones are going to go into which episode and stuff. So you've done 10 days over the space of 2 or 3 months of going to the house and doing some tasks. That was what we did. It was a shorter series, but it was 10 days of filming. And each time you turn up, you do 5 or 6 things. And then it's months later. It's not like, oh, we just finished that and turn up next week and do the studios. So we were sitting there, and they always sit people in alphabetical order. Right. So it's meritocratic. They don't sort of choose and mould it. So it was always Al, me, Paul, Sarah, and Rob. Or Rob and Sarah, that's right. I can do the alphabet. And so I was always sat with Al Murray that side and Paul Crowley that side. So they're the only ones I can sort of whisper to during the show. And they'd bring up a task, and the number of times we would go, God, what did you do in this one? I've no idea. I've no idea. You genuinely wouldn't know how you'd done. Yeah. So there was one where I'd cheated, and I'd forgotten I'd cheated. And they played it, and I came out of it really well. And I was thinking, but I must have done really well at that one. I didn't think I'd done really well. That's great. And then they pulled the rug from under you and go, oh, hang on, we got some close-up footage, and there's me pouring my cup of tea into the bucket or whatever. I'd completely forgotten doing that. So it's actually a revelation to you.
Yes.
At the same time as it is to the audience. You do too much too quickly, and you can't take it in. There was one that wasn't in the shows. We did a little taster. They filmed like a short version with everyone on our series, like a 20-minute thing with just some bits. And they did the same with the cast from the series before us, all on the same day. Just, I don't know, sort of testing the relationships and checking some things were working or whatever, as a sort of pilot. And one of the tasks that they showed in that was, you know, like on Art Attack or something, there'd be a camera up above and there'd be an artwork made out of things. We had to use toilet rolls to do a portrait of someone. And it was all about whether Greg could recognise who you'd done a portrait of. Yeah. And so they sort of showed the face I'd made out of toilet rolls. And then Greg was going, I don't know his. And eventually it became, all right, Dave, who is it? Okay, I genuinely don't remember. I have literally no idea whatsoever. And they had to tell me that I had said it was Mick Jagger. But I didn't know. It's too many months have gone by.
Oh. Cool. And you play a lot of tricks on your wife increasingly in Modern Life is Goodish.
Occasionally. Yeah.
How does she feel about this in the real life world where these tricks are?
She's quite happy with it.
Yeah.
She's
my wife would hate it, I have to say.
I hope, and I think it is true, that if you watch the episodes where there is sort of domestic content of that sort, it is really obvious how heavily and deeply in love I am with my wife. And so that hopefully that comes across and leavens things. And in episode 4 of this series, she absolutely 100% gets her revenge. And that was very satisfying, especially for people who've watched all of the series and sort of seen the number of times she is the butt of some gentle humour. But yeah, occasionally, because she does work in telly, and obviously you cherry pick the moments that work for the show, and occasionally she does sort of sit there in the green room thinking, there's an executive producer there and a commissioning editor there who now think I'm a fucking idiot. And she's not. She's a really talented, really creative, really funny, great writer. She's brilliant at what she does. And so I do sort of have to go and underline to them occasionally, just out of doing the right thing. Yeah. That, like, there are things that one thing I love most about my wife is she cannot say the word Vietnamese. She can't say it. If next time you meet her, ask her to say it's Vietnamese. She can't. There's just weird syllables. She cannot separate something about those syllables, so it's Vietnamese. And you go through it with her going Vietnamese. Right, Vietnamese. She just can't. So, all right, and it just makes me laugh so much. But we've all got something like that. We've all got. It doesn't make you stupid or bad at your job. It's just your little foible, and those things are endlessly amusing to me. And she loves Vietnamese food as well. But we don't have it anywhere near as much as she'd like.
I did like the trick you played with the VTech toys, because we have. I think probably a lot of
Most
parents
people
have
have
those.
got them if they've got
because
kids.
it was
Not if they haven't,
the
obviously.
same thing that annoyed you, that some of them have a reasonable song,
Yeah.
and some of them just feel what they just like ad lib this in the studio. The one with the fire engine one is. For age, that's the one we got. The fire engine goes, quick, comes the man with the ladder. It's just like really weird way of, off we go to the big fire. And you kind of go, that's, it doesn't rhyme. Is that how you view firemen, as the people with the ladder? I mean, that's a sort of odd way of saying it. But then, maybe that's because they're all in different languages, in different places, which is what your trick involves.
But you wouldn't have to translate the song exactly. You could
could.
let the German department decide on their own song for their fire engine, and then create another one for
I
British.
think they don't care, do they? They think, well, let's just get these things out there.
The man who did the voice on the police car tweeted me to say he enjoyed it. And it was the police car one that was the most comic to us.
Yes.
Because it just makes no effort to rhyme
at
all. Can't remember quite what it is, but it's...
No. But the level of, the level you've gone into on this prank where you're going to your friend's house, I don't want to give too much of it away, but buying the foreign versions, and so you can switch over the...
If you buy the foreign version, and if you're lucky enough for the bottom half of the bottom, because they don't, like the French ambulance is completely different colour scheme to the British ambulance and whatever, so you have to find ones that match in the colour scheme. And things like the cement mixer has a different coloured barrel in the foreign ones and whatever. But if you can find ones where the base and the wheels are the same colour, and you've got a screwdriver, you can swap the tops over so that your wife, who has been playing with your child and his English language cement mixer, suddenly thinks that your child must have pressed something to turn it into a German cement mixer. And that was all it was meant to be in the first place, was that she would say, oh, what have I done? I don't know how to change it back. And I'd just go, oh, you need to hold the screen in and press the two wheels and do a factory reset. And I'd be able to swap the English one back in, and I'd always be able to do it, and she wouldn't be able to do it. But then she went and reported it to our WhatsApp group of fellow parents, and it spiralled out of control. So I started going around to their houses and swapping their toys when our children were having play dates. And then one of them started trying to complain to VTech online. I thought, I've got to fess up here.
But also to the extent you put in dead batteries into the ones you were changing so that they wouldn't immediately spot it. So it would be a few days before they...
I've got a reputation. So if Dave's just been round and the cement mixer is now German, they might think, oh, that was Dave. But if I put dead batteries in it, Dave's just been round and the cement mixer isn't working. Oh, well, we'll fix that in a couple of days' time. I'll go to Poundland and buy some batteries. 3 days later, you've been to Poundland, you put the batteries in. Now it's German. The fact that it's been dead makes you think, oh, something's reset. Well, yeah. And I'm off the hook. No one's thinking it's me anymore. The fun part was trying to deaden so many batteries.
Yeah. I worry that you put this mind to evil purpose somewhere along the lines.
I don't think that's evil.
I think it isn't evil, but my worry is that as well as doing these pranks, that you've got some master crimes going on in the background that you are hiding.
Well, I don't know if... I haven't done the episode yet about my Russian botnet. But I am responsible for...
Yeah, anything good for you. Well, we're going to have to wrap up because, I have to go to Hertfordshire now, get dirty with horses. Why aren't, on your tour, why aren't you playing Cheddar at the King's Theatre in Cheddar?
Oh, don't do that. Because they didn't book me.
It's just an annoying thing that comedians get that I notice you have to keep on saying as well as I do.
Yeah.
We don't go to the places that we don't go to because they don't book us. That's how it works. All right, it was just for you and me, Dave, that one.
Yeah.
Look, thanks so much for coming on
It's
the
my
show.
pleasure.
And thank you for being a fantastic guest to end the series on. I hope next series my child will be sleeping a bit more and I won't be as tired. But probably, it's going to carry on like this for a few years. And then, the thing is...
If you want to go and have two.
Yeah. I'm so old, I've just realised I'm never getting out the other end of this. And I'm thinking about just ending it.
which bit are you thinking of ending?
Me for the
Right,
moment.
okay,
So that's the best.
I don't think that's in their interest.
No. That's the problem with
Isn't
them.
it? That's the...
I've got to hang around or it wrecks it for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Little fuckers. They're little fuckers. They're nice, though.
And now you've had two, they're only getting half a house in Hertfordshire each. It's a raw deal.
They're not getting anything. I'm gonna... When I'm dying, I'm burning the fucking house down. My wife's not getting anything, my kids aren't getting anything. That's it. Bang.
Is that why the emergency question, what do you most regret burning?
Yeah. What do you most look forward to burning is the next series. We'll be back if you're listening at home, we'll be back almost immediately with Series 13. We'll be back, if you're listening here, we'll be back in the beginning of February through to, it's crazy. We're both on tour next year. Do come and see all the comedians on these podcasts. Thank you very much for supporting us at home. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Good luck. Dave Gorman! How'd you like them sky potatoes?